Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. Has your life been missing 20-minute long stare-downs with beefy men and space aliens screaming at each other at the top of their lungs? Or have you been missing galactic beams blasting through other human beings in a slightly homoerotic manner? Well, if all these things apply to you, then it's about time you get your ass on board and start watching and/or reading Dragon Ball. What is going on, Nerd Nation? This is your boy Dom here from NerdCon Media, and what I want to do today is the first of many segments I want to do down the road in which I introduce you closeted nerds to a different anime every month. Naturally, I have to go with my favorite first off and foremost, the one I know most about, in Dragon Ball. I want to get this off the bat right away. This is a bit of a rudimentary video, so any of you guys who are already a pretty avid fan, I'm going to be going over a lot of the basic stuff here. So this is really for those people who, they've seen the show, they know it in pop culture, but they never really kind of took that step to watch it. So I just want to basically introduce the show, basically the characters, the different ways to watch it, with the different types of dubs, and hopefully you come out of this with a better understanding of what Dragon Ball really is and why you definitely need to stop what you're doing and start introducing yourself to the show real soon, because it's definitely a life-changing show. So without further ado, let's get right on with this. So it's no stretch to say that Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and its subsequent spin-offs and movies has definitely impacted pop culture. I mean, from the moves like the kamehameha, kamehameha!
I don't know who he is, but he's no Super Saiyan. Of that I'm certain.
The Final Flash. Final Flash!
Huh? No way. I can feel it.
The Special Beam Cannon. Special Beam Cannon!
It's over 9,000!
And of course, the Spirit Bomb. Come on, just a little bit of energy. Just give me a little hit. Just give me a little hit, man. Come on.
Why should I, a prince, give a subordinate my power?
Come on, yo. I'll get weird for the energy.
You ruined it. You ruined it, and I'm leaving.
Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball GT, and now Dragon Ball Super have really left its mark on the anime world, and the nerd world, and the greater world in general, which is essentially the ultimate goal of the whole NerdCon Media thing. Some of my great memories of college football come with us blasting some of the Super Saiyan themes over the weight room. So it's not just something that geeks and nerds like, which is why I think it's so important for people to understand. So let's start talking about Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball in a nutshell follows the story of Son Goku. Goku is a naive but ever-loving protagonist who is very easy to engage with. When he eventually meets Bulma, who becomes another important female protagonist in the series, he goes on an epic journey to find Dragon Balls, which are these 7 balls that if you gather them together, allow you to get one wish from a dragon, which acts as the MacGuffin of the series throughout the entirety of it, and still does to this day. So, you can't really talk about Dragon Ball without mentioning Akira Toriyama. Akira Toriyama is the writer, creator, and illustrator of all of the characters, almost all of the story, and what people generally consider canon. In 1984, Akira Toriyama, who was mostly known as being more of a comedy writer and more laid-back, entertainment-type artist, decided to start working on Dragon Ball. Now, those of you who are history majors who are familiar with any Chinese folklore, Toriyama basically took the story Journey to the West, which is a legendary Chinese story about a monkey boy and a prince going to the West in search for mystic items, which is what becomes Dragon Ball.
Stop! That's my Dragon Ball, you snake! Give it No, it isn't. This ball was my grandpa's. He gave it to me. Say, it must be...
So Toriyama modestly did not expect this to be hit in the slightest. He thought it was going to be one arc and over, and that would have been the end of it. But Dragon Ball took off big time, and subsequently spawned off the anime, spin-offs, merchandising. Dragon Ball became a household name in Japan. And as time went on, Toriyama decided it was time to grow up his character. So, by the last arc of the original series of Dragon Ball, Goku, who was the main character protagonist and was always kind of a young, carefree boy, grew up into an adult. And for the first time, especially in a manga series, readers got to watch and grow up with a character, which is something that really hasn't been done before in comics and manga, as opposed to the otherwise stagnated characters who really don't change at all. Especially in America as well, because characters like Superman, Batman, although you get their backstories, most of their stories are episodic in nature. So Dragon Ball laid out a single continuity in which a reader or viewer could follow and enjoy and really invest themselves in these characters. And this became a format that a lot of other animes and mangas would adapt. Of course, other series have done this before, and you know, it's not something completely unique to Dragon Ball, but Dragon Ball was really the one that hammered home the idea of allowing a character to grow up, basically mirroring the viewers and readers who were growing up along with the character. Which is why I truly believe that Dragon Ball has become such an influential, homely and touching series. Long story short, Dragon Ball made Shonen Jump what it is, and you really can't have the Narutos, the One Pieces, and even a lot of things in America take references from Dragon Ball Z. Moving on, let's start talking about what Dragon Ball Z is, what its themes are, how to watch it, and everything that comes with an episode of Dragon Ball. So when people think Dragon Ball Z, there is actually a stereotype that comes along with it. It is really well known and renowned for having two guys stand across from each other and essentially yell at the top of their lungs as loud as they possibly can. And yeah, don't get me wrong, there is some truth to that, and I will go into later about how the different types of versions of the show and the different dubs kind of take a different approach at that problem. But I digress. Dragon Ball Z really upped the ante for the series. It introduced sci-fi themes, it kind of went away from the kung fu themes of the early Dragon Ball series, and really felt more like an American-made series. Which is why when we get into the dubbing issues and the different ways to view Dragon Ball, I'm really going to lay out to you guys, you know, if you're into this type of thing, watch this version, or if you're into this type of thing, watch that version. There are huge differences in these dubs, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Dragon Ball Z introduced epic moments to the likes of which most people have never experienced. I mean, we're talking planets exploding by the will of man, beams and blasts and explosion, and the themes undermining all of these are actually really intense themes. Themes of revenge, atonement, themes of raising a child, and it really kept the nature of the original series in which you related to these characters, but it upped the scale to the point of sheer insanity, which is awesome. Nowadays, they're literally fighting gods. Like actual gods. Like, the show is essentially gods fighting each other. So, Dragon Ball Z really increased this power scale and made it so entertaining to watch at a visual level, but still managed to maintain that connection that the early Dragon Ball always had. So now that I'm done sounding like a condescending film critic, why should you watch Dragon Ball Z? I mean, it's not like it's gonna get you laid. And frankly, I've tried. It doesn't work.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I digress. You should watch Dragon Ball Z because it's awesome. And it's not just awesome because of the visuals, it's not just awesome because there's explosions and planets being blasted to dust. Dragon Ball Z has pushed me through some of the most challenging moments in my life, and while that may sound comical to some, the actual real-world themes of this series are poignant enough to make anybody push through some of their most dark and painful hours. The first thing I always tell people who want to start watching Dragon Ball is to actually watch Dragon Ball. And by that I mean not just Dragon Ball Z. Of course, I'm a child of the 90s. I grew up with just watching Dragon Ball Z. I grew up with the Funimation dub. I missed out on a lot of really good stuff that I kind of kicked myself for not seeing earlier. If you watch the show in its entirety, there are a lot of things that the characters develop through and grow through that you wouldn't have otherwise if you just started at Dragon Ball Z. So do yourself a huge favor here and definitely start with Dragon Ball, because it's a beautiful piece of Eastern writing that needs to be appreciated more. So once you get through Dragon Ball, you move on to Dragon Ball Z. Now Dragon Ball Z has dozens of ways to view it. There's more than one dub, there's different ways to watch it on the internet, so which one's best for you? Now, the original Japanese, and people on the internet always jump right on and say, you need to watch it in the original Japanese with subtitles, and that's fine. I think that's a really true to the manga adaptation. For those who read the manga and those who want the purest form of Dragon Ball, watch it in Japanese with subtitles. That is 100% the best way to watch it. The voice acting is magnificent. A woman named Masako Nozawa voices Goku, and to some people who watched just Dragon Ball Z and have seen the English version, they're a little off-put by Nozawa's performance, but this goes back to what I said before. If you watch Dragon Ball first and see how her performance changes and grows into the character, then you get a really good appreciation for how good she actually is. She's a woman who's in her 80s now, and she's still screaming at the top of her lungs today. So, on the voice acting alone, I'd say it's almost worth investigating the Japanese version. Moving on to the English version. In the early 90s, when Toonami began airing Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, they used the Ocean dub. Around the Namek Saga, they switched over to Funimation. Funimation made some pretty major changes to the dialogue. The most notable thing is the music. The Japanese music director is Shinsuke Kikuchi. Now, the Kikuchi score has a very Western feel to it, and at times it almost feels like the old Clint Eastwood standoffs of the spaghetti westerns. It works very well, but at times I personally feel that it misses some of the bigger moments. This has to do with the nature of Dragon Ball Z. Where Dragon Ball felt very Eastern, Dragon Ball Z takes a lot of Western influences, especially with the Terminator. Star Wars is referenced a lot, to the point that you can even see R2-D2 in the show. Funimation used a guy named Bruce Faulkner. What he did really exceptionally well was make these moments feel even more grandiose in nature.
Let me ask you, does a machine like yourself ever experience fear?
There is almost an eerie undertone of synthesizers and synth rock that makes that 80s sci-fi feel really cement itself in the show. This heavy Western influence not only affected the music, but the voice acting and writing of the series as well. Most notably in Shenmue's performance of Son Goku, whereas Nozawa was much more high-pitched and perceived to be childish, the Goku of the Funimation dub is written a lot more like Superman. There's even a scene in which the dialogue seems like something the Man of Steel himself would say.
I am protector of the innocent. I am the light in the darkness. I am truth.
If you want a Western approach to an Eastern product, watch the Funimation dub of Dragon Ball Z. As I said earlier a few times, both of these had that problem of filler, which is a non-canon entity in the series, and these long stare-offs that just don't seem necessary. And many of these problems come from the fact that the manga wasn't written in time for the show to move on. So what happened a few years back was a couple of guys got together and decided, hey, let's re-release this show with better lighting and better visuals, and let's get rid of all that extra crap. So Dragon Ball, and in America, Dragon Ball Z Kai came out in the late 2000s.
Don't stop, we're in luck now. Don't stop, there's so much to be found. We can't find paradise, all we have to do is go, go,
Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z Kai are good for people who want to get into the series. And for you guys who really are beginners, I 100% say start off with Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z Kai. It goes a lot smoother, you won't get lost in a lot of the extra filler, and it's a much more fast-paced and enjoyable series to watch. Of course, you lose out on some of the really good filler that actually does add to the dimensions of the character, but for a beginner who needs to learn who these characters are and develop with them, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z Kai really is probably the best way to get into the show. Of course, there is another option that I would suggest checking out. Team 4-Star is a group of hilarious guys who decided to get together and create what is called Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Now, you guys are YouTubers who are familiar with abridging. What they do is they voice over in their own writing and their own style the entirety of Dragon Ball Z. And they're still doing it right now, and it's hysterical. But what they do really, really well is they actually catch the true nature of the manga with their own interpretation. More so in some ways even than the Japanese, Funimation, and Kai versions of the show. So, if you want to watch the show and get a laugh, but still maintain that action, check out Dragon Ball Z Abridged. I highly, highly recommend it. Team 4-Star is the channel, and they even have a gaming channel in which they play the games of Dragon Ball 2 if you're interested in that. Also, if you want to continue to really research the depths of this series, check out Geekdom 101's channel, Quaman's Land, Rhyme Style. I could go on for a while, Black and Fist. This is the Dragon Ball community. These guys put in their time and energy to really research this stuff heavily, and they are masters at it. I've learned a lot from them, and a lot of these guys inspire me to investigate this YouTube thing myself. So definitely check out their channels if you do decide to start watching Dragon Ball.
Hi. Whoa, little guy, you're a strong one, aren't you?
The most important thing about Dragon Ball Z is its message to its viewers. Dragon Ball Z really is a series that tells you to push through your limits, to push through your boundaries, and to keep fighting for what you believe in. There's definitely some respect and truth to that. So, leave the stigmas aside, forget what that cute girl in the front of the classroom thinks of you, check out Dragon Ball Z. It will teach you some of the most important life lessons you've ever had. You'll learn stuff along the way, and you will genuinely enjoy yourself. I guarantee it. As usual, this is Dom. This is the first of a series of segments that I'm going to do, so look out for next month in which I break down Naruto and why you should be watching that as well. So guys, if you see me, try to subscribe to me and try to spread the word. We're going to have a whole bunch of really special guests on. I have actors, musicians, athletes, some players in the NFL. Definitely check the videos out and spread the word as much as you can. I really appreciate it. Alright, Nerd Nation, Dom out. See you guys soon.